Next Monday, the 9th of February, we have the confirmation that the next fusion is coming to Raid. In this case, it's the February fusion. In the last couple of years, we've always had kind of a partner, duo type of fusion where we get one of the champions, that is the fusion for that month, and then we have a partner that tends to be stronger than the actual fusion, but also harder to get, but also, and we're gonna see it in this video, sometimes warranted. Let's have a look at it. Hi, Senda here and welcome to another Raid video. In this case, I'm filming this video on a Wednesday. I think this information can go live on Thursday, so I'm not sure if you're gonna know this information or if they're gonna make official this information the time I'm publishing it, but in this case, it's a leak, or at least there's been some information, especially the images of the champion going around because there's been some data mines. But that said, we have the confirmation, the official champions, we're gonna see the skill, and we're also gonna see the partner. First of all, I want to just do a quick recap because we know what's the champion, the fusion that's going to be in February, but also if we have a look at last year's February's fusion, we had Esme the dancer, and then, she was the fusion, and then we had Modo of the Peel, I think it was called the name, which was a champion that was partnered with the first one. In this case, the collaboration last year, the duo wasn't too strong. I haven't seen them around. They're supposed to work on Arena against Stoneskin. I've never seen them on Arena. I don't have the guy and I didn't go for the fusion, haven't got it, but I don't regret it either. And we got the fusion, which was Esme, and then I think we got an event. I'm not sure if it was one of these card flipping events or some sort of event like that, but it was kind of warranted. If you save up resources, you could get them both. And if we go even 1 year before, in 2024, the Valentine's Fusion champions were Queen, Dwight Queen and Queen and Cora, and Narcissus. And again, Cora was a reviver, was a quite powerful champion on her own, and Narcissus was the damage dealer, which was a Void legendary champion, and he was part of a warranted, if I recall correctly, a Void only legendary, Void only warranted champion. I mean, so far, the last 2 years, if we keep going back and back, some months, yeah, some months not, but if we take as reference what they've been doing the last couple of years, chances are, before you start asking, chances are there might be the fusion, which is called Noldua, we're gonna have a look at her, and the partner. And the partner might be warranted, so I'm gonna go for the fusion just in case. And keep in mind that if you wanna save your shards just in case the champion, the partner, is gonna be warranted, like I said, keep in mind that the last previous years we've had the fusion and the partner warranted after. Here I'm gonna put on the screen the champion that's gonna be the fusion this next month. I mean, just for the looks of her, I think she looks really, really amazing, really, really cool. I'm just gonna go for her, 1, just in case we're able to get the partner afterwards, and 2, just because she looks really cool. She's gonna be a dark elf, she's gonna be a support type, legendary champion, force affinity, and she has a particular kit, a particular role that might be interesting for many, not so interesting for many others. In this case, we can see her here, Noldua the Gloaming, and I'm gonna show you quickly what's the partner like, because we have in one side Noldua the Gloaming and Solanar the Gleaming. I'm covering it, but basically one Gleaming and Gloaming, Gleaming and Gloaming, Dark Elf, High Elf, Dark Elf, so this is the combo, the partner, and they both work pretty good together, they both very strong together, and what Plarium told us is that their aim to stop or to at least do some sort of counter to speed teams in Arena, to try to fight the speed meta Arena that has been ruling in the Arena for the last 6 years, and these two are coming to try to fight that somehow. Jumping quickly on her kit, we can see here on the A1, Shade Strike, attacks one enemy, 50% chance of placing Enfeeble for 2 turns, which is pretty cool. Enfeeble, basically the enemy is only going to do weak hits, and weak hits cannot place in debuffs. If the target is a boss, places a weaken for 2 turns instead, and this debuff cannot be resisted if Solanar is on the same team. So it's pretty useful. The only bad part that there is only one single enemy, bosses are immune to Enfeeble, but at least we're placing weaken, so has certain value, both in waves to place Enfeeble to some enemy that could be very dangerous, and the weaken, if it's a boss, also uses on PvE. And she doesn't need any accuracy if Solanar is on the same team. Not the best A1, but quite versatile one. On the A2, 75% chance of removing all buffs from all enemies. This effect cannot be resisted if Solanar is on the same team, then has a 75% chance of placing a decreased defense on all enemies for 2 turns, and again this cannot be resisted if Solanar is on the same team. This is very similar to what Madame Ceres does. She also cleanses the enemy's buff and places a block, a decreased defense. Madame Ceres also places a decreased attack, in this case we're not doing that, but if Solanar is on the same team, we place an increased attack in all eyes for 2 turns. So there's an epic champion that does something somewhat similar to this, and in this case Noldua, if she is going with Solanar both together on the same team, she's not gonna need accuracy for anything, for placing debuffs, from removing debuffs, for removing buffs, nothing. So pretty cool, interesting skill, easy to just cleanse the enemy team. However, keep in mind that there's some buffs that we cannot remove, like the intercept, we cannot remove them. The stone skin from the set, we have a 50-50 chance to remove them, so it's not gonna work always against all enemies, but it's a good to have skill. On the A3, and this is what's gonna make her interesting for many, is that she revives all dead allies with 50% HP and 50% turn meter. If Solanar is on the same team, and here I'm gonna explain a bit more in depth because I asked Plarion what the fuck it meant. If Solanar is on the same team and is dead, revives them with 100% turn meter instead. I mean, here the first time I read is like, okay, if Solanar is on the same team and is dead, revives them. Who is them? All the allies, all the dead allies. But I asked Plarion, who is reviving with 100% turn meter? Is only Solanar, because it would be easier to say revives him with 100% turn meter, or revives all the allies with 100% turn meter. And Plarion told us no, this only works if Solanar is on the same team and is dead. The only one that gets the 100% turn meter is him. I don't know why they put them, but it's him. So if we have 3 allies that are dead and one of them is Solanar, all of them are gonna get 50% HP. The other 2 dead champions are gonna get 50% turn meter, but Solanar is gonna be the only one who gets the 100% turn meter. Just keep this in mind. And also, on top of that, places a shield on all allies equal to 30% of this champion's max HP. And this works in the same way as Lilith. Basically, because there's champions that are able to use the revive skill even if there's no dead allies. For example, I don't know, here in Skinwalkers we got Uko, if I find him here. He can use this A3 skill, which also revives all dead allies, and then places a block damage on them. But if there is no dead allies, he can still use this skill to place increased speed in the allies. So he can use it regardless. It's the same with, for example, Raka, here's legendary, Void legendary, she can use the A3, revives the allies, so 50 and 50, exactly the same, then places the block debuffs, and will place the block debuffs even if there is no dead allies. So this is how one kind of champions work. You can use the skill even if no one is dead, but she doesn't work like that. She works in a similar ways, for example, Lilith, that revives dead allies, blah blah blah, places a veil, but if there is no dead allies, she cannot use this skill, which it kind of limits her to A1, A2. So Noldua is going to be exactly the same as Lilith. She's not going to be able to use the skill if there's no one dead. Which means this second part places a shield on all allies equal to 30% of this champion max HP. We're not going to be placing the champion unless we're not going to be placing the buff unless we're reviving anyone. So if no one is dead, we are only having an A1, which is not bad, but it's not mind-blowing. An A2, which is just a cleanse and a decreased defense, quite versatile for waves, but not mind-blowing. There's epic champions that do the same thing. And an A3 we cannot use. As a passive, all turn meter fill effects used by enemies are 30% less effective. So if the enemy is getting 100% turn meter, we reduce that to only 30%. Sorry, by 30%, which means they're gonna keep increasing their turn meter in 70%. If Solanar is on the same team, fills this champion turn meter by 30% of the enemy's turn meter fill effect, which means, again, if the enemy is increasing 100% turn meter, we're going to be decreasing it to 70, and that 30 that makes the difference, she is going to get. So it's not a massive turn meter increase, not enough to at least counter super efficiently the speed meta, but it's an attempt. It's some sort of, okay, you're getting turn meter, I'm gonna decrease that, I'm also gonna get turn meter. If there are multiple champions, only one will work. If this skill will not activate in duplicate copies, and if this champion is dead, only counts turn meter fill effects from skills. So for example, in sets like the Supersonic, that also fills some turn meter depending on the turn meter from the enemies, this will not work. This only works in fill effects from skills. And finally, an aura, increasing ally accuracy in 70. I mean, it's not a bad champion, it's not the most crazy fusion either, but what makes her interesting, and what I said that it might be interesting for some people more than others, is that the faction of Dark Elves so far has only one reviver, which is the Blind Seer. I'm lucky or unlucky enough to have her. She's not a great champion, she got rebalanced recently, she revives with HP and turn meter, places a block damage, then she has a cleanse, not even a cleanse, she needs a cleanse, but she heals, she places block debuffs, she places a shield, and on the A1 increases or decreases turn meter. I mean, she needs some aura, she needs a bit of more of love, she needs something else. But so far she was the only reviver in the faction, nothing else. And it's a faction that is, first, doesn't have many champions. We only have 3 full rows of champions. If we go to, I don't know, other champions with more love, for example, I don't know, Sacred Order, they love Sacred Order. We have 3 full rows and we're getting close to the 4th row. So it was about time that the Dark Elves and the High Elves get some more love. In this case, we don't have many champions and a lot of them is the same kind of prototype. Damage dealers, attack base, pretty weak. We have Ray, Foley, Xenomorph, Zavia, Maranix, Cyclic, Astralith, Eva, Ruel, Ultan. I mean, this is all the same sort of prototype of champion. Attack base, pretty weak. They hit hard, yeah, but it's more or less the same kind of idea. And if you don't have a Blind Seer, and you're struggling in faction wars or something like that, you might need another reviver, and Noldua can do that. I don't know the stats of her yet, I don't know how fast she really is, but at least she has a revive and she can be helpful in that sense. So this is the fusion that's gonna come on Monday the 9th. Now, we've seen her skills, but we need to see what is the partner able to do, which is here. So Noldua the Gloaming, I'm gonna be putting the video so you can see him a bit more in detail. He's a pretty cool looking champion. It's not a Dragon Ball Z collaboration, even though he definitely looks like a Super Saiyan champion. And he is the powerful of the two and the interesting of the two. His kit is quite crazy. He does a lot of things. Some better, some worse. Some things could be polished, but I think we're not gonna see him on his own. If we're gonna see him, it's gonna be probably with Noldua, because the combo is interesting. And if we have them both, I mean, I'd rather having her and going for the fusion just in case I pull him in the future, or just in case they put him on some sort of warranted champion. I think she's quite powerful, and if we get both of them, we might be able to see them on Arena. I'm not sure exactly how they're gonna fit on the meta, but they're definitely gonna be interesting. First is a legendary Void attack-based champion, and I'm not sure exactly if you are gonna know it by then, but I can already leak you a little bit that he has a pretty high-based attack. I'm not saying like 1900s like Carnage, but it's one of the highest. It's a very high-based attack. And this is gonna be interesting because the amount of stuff he does is gonna be pretty interesting. Let's start with attacks all enemies, and we're gonna see something that we're gonna see across all skills, and is this attack is always critical if Noldua the Gloaming is on the same team. This is super cool and super powerful because basically it's telling us that it has one of the most powerful, by some, I'm not super fan of it, but by some, one of the most powerful relics, mythical relics, included in his own kit, which is the Death Dealer. Wearer's attacks will always be critical hits, but the wearer receives 200% more damage. This is 200% more damage is a big downside. Even if we level it up to the max, to level plus 18, this will reduce it to 100%, which is obviously a lot less, but we will still be receiving 100% more damage, which is not always suitable. However, this will allow us to have like 0% crit chance or 0% crit rate, but we can just go bonkers on crit damage. We can go 450, I'm not sure the big whales how much crit damage they're gonna have, but this will allow us to just focus on crit damage, focus on attack, and do crazy amounts of damage. This guy, Solanar, has this relic into his kit without the downside. So you can more or less have an idea of how powerful he might end up being. So this attack is always critical. We can see it on the A1, we can see it on the A2 again, Blazing Force, this attack will always be critical, and on the A3, again, this attack is always critical if Noldua is on the team. So if they're both together, he's gonna hit by crazy amounts because we don't need any critical rate. On the A1 as well, 60% chance, I mean first is an AoE attack, keep that in mind, has 60% chance of placing a fatigue, debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. It's not a great debuff. I think they kind of thought, okay, this is one of the newest debuffs, not many champions have it, let's just put it there. It doesn't do much. Basically, he places the fatigue, the enemy gets a turn, the enemy attacks, and after the enemy attacks, that enemy goes to sleep. The problem is that if we then hit that enemy, he just wakes up and that's it. So it's a bit useless in that sense. But it's a free debuff, doesn't hurt having it. We might not always be able to see the benefit of it, but you know, it's an extra debuff. Also, this is when it gets interesting, has an 80% chance of counterattack with this skill, whenever an enemy gets an extra turn or has an instant turn effect activated, which this is intended definitely to work against champions that, for example, let's say Yuzen, that she activates, she I think buffs on a champion, on an ally or something, on a champion, buffs them with crit rate, crit damage and increased attack or something like that, basically sets it up ready to smack and gives an instant turn. If that happens, he's just gonna be like, okay, you got an instant turn, I'm gonna do A1, and this A1 is gonna be AoE, so it can be a pretty nice amount of free damage. Same when there's a champion that says, okay, he places buff, this, does this and that, and then gets an extra turn. For example, mythical champions, when they change forms, they get an extra turn, so he will smack them with the A1. I think this is somewhat intended to, okay, you got an extra turn, I place this stuff, and you're gonna go to sleep straight away, so you might miss in, you know, a big part of your kit. And then has a 15% chance, I think with books, it's gonna go to 35% chance or something like that, to counterattack with this skill whenever an enemy has their turn meter increased. Again, this works against Arbiters, against Sifis, against Lady Kimis, against Lissandras, literally a lot of these champions that you see on the arena that get, or they increase their turn meter, we might just for free, for the lols, A1 AoE with fatigue. So interesting passive effect and quite powerful. Let's jump on the A2. That is also a very interesting one. Attacks an enemy. This attack is always critical, we've seen that already. Will ignore 10% of the target's defense for each buff on this champion. We get 10 buffs, we ignore 100% of defense. And that can be a lot of damage, especially considering that we don't even need to care about crit rate if we're playing them both together. And then, this champion is immune to all debuffs while this skill is not on cooldown. Whenever an enemy attempts to place a debuff on this champion while this skill is not on cooldown, this champion gains a random buff instead. Let's say the enemies are trying to place a stun on us or decrease defense or whatever, we're gonna get, okay, you're trying to place ship on me, no problem, I'm gonna get increased attack, or I'm gonna get a shield, or I'm gonna get, I don't know, crit rate increase, something like that. So every time we have these skills not in cooldown, so we haven't used this skill yet, we are going to be immune to any debuff. This is polymorph, this is stun, this is sleep, this is literally anything. We're going to be immune and we're going to transform that into a buff. And the more buffs we have, the more defense we're going to be ignoring. So it's going to be interesting skill. The A3 is the real smack, is where he's going to be dealing a lot of damage because attacks an enemy, before attacking steals all buffs from the enemy and 100% of the turn meter of the target if they are not under Stone Skin. If they're not under Stone Skin, it's like I'm gonna take all your buffs, I'm gonna take all your 100% turn meter, thank you very much, and then I'm gonna smack you. And if this effect cannot be resisted, which means that he doesn't need any kind of accuracy, this attack is always critical, which means it's gonna smack, and will ignore Stone Skin. So if the enemy has a Stone Skin, we're just gonna ignore it and smack. If the enemy doesn't have Stone Skin, we're just gonna take the whole turn meter, the whole buffs, and smack. So it's very versatile. It's only to one enemy. This was AoE, it will be busted, but it's only to one enemy. This champion receives 75% less damage on enemies extra turn, on enemy extra turn or instant turn, while this skill is not on cooldown. So again, if a champion enemy, just, I don't know, let's say it's a mythical champion, gets a turn, change to the second form, we might just do A1 for free, and the next time that enemy is gonna attack us, that damage is reduced by 75%, so by quite a lot. This works against Marios, for example, that they tend to do A3, A2, they get the increased attack, increased defense, increased accuracy, and then they smack you at A2, or mythical champion that they switch forms. So this is gonna be a very interesting go second, or at least not go as fast, kind of champion, because it's going to be attacking for free on day one, it's going to be receiving a lot less damage, so it's going to be very interesting. And then while this skill is on cooldown, which means we've used it, reduces the cooldown by 1 turn whenever an enemy receives an extra turn, an instant turn activated on them, or has their turn meter increase, and occurs 1 per turn. There's 1 per turn on one enemy, and then his turn, and then another enemy. So it's very easy to get this skill back, especially considering that we might steal 100% of turn meter, so it might be very easy to, recirculate this skill, steer turn meter, go again, and so on. As a passive, whenever an enemy receives healing, has a 100% chance to reduce the amount of the healing received to 0, so basically has a 100% chance, so you always do it, basically the enemy team cannot heal. This champion will receive that heal, so the enemies cannot heal, he steals it. If Noldua is on the same team, enemies will receive the damage equal to the amount of healing instead. So instead of himself healing, if the enemy, let's say a Donatello or something, that they hit on A1 and they heal 5-10k, every time they do that, they're going to be damaging themselves instead of healing. So it's a very interesting and fun passive and fun combo. Once per round, if this champion is dead, revives this champion with 100% HP and 100% turn meter when their last living ally is killed. Basically, he has a free revive. If he's the last one standing, if he's the first one to go down, then he doesn't revive. Then places a magma shield on this champion for 2 turns. Again, this magma shield is a mythical relic. It's a very powerful relic as well, one that you see every now and then, Volcardiac Heart. This one will place a magma shield. Basically what it does is it's a regular shield, but every time you hit that shield, that damage that you're hitting the shield for, you're gonna get it bounced back to you. So it's a tricky one to deal. You see it on Arena, you see it on Marichkas, you see it in champions that normally place shields or have a lot of HP and this kind of things. It's very nasty because it reflects 100% of the damage and it's quite tricky. So he is gonna get a magma shield on this champion for 2 turns. The value of the magma shield is 300% of this champion's max HP, so it's gonna be a big fat magma shield. And if Noldua is on the same team, this buff is protected. So the only thing to do damage to this guy is using some skill that ignores shields. This is pretty much the only way, or you kill him first and you don't leave him for the last, because if you leave him for the last, he's gonna revive on his own, so interesting. And finally, an aura increases ally attack in all battles by 33%. So this is the fusion Noldua, this is the partner Solanar. We don't know exactly what else are we gonna need. I guess we're gonna know in the next couple of hours, in the next couple of days, what other champions are coming. I'm pretty sure Plarium is not gonna tell us, it's not gonna confirm, yeah, he's gonna be warranted or not, because basically if Plarium will tell us that, there will be a lot of people who will hoard their shards, not open anything, and that would mean people not putting money on the game. But like I said in the beginning of the video, chances are it might. Last year it happened, the year before that it happened, why not it would happen this year? And these two are interesting, especially this one. Like I said, thanks a lot for watching the video. I'll leave over here a recommended one. Let me know in the comments which one of these two you like the most, if you think it's gonna be warranted or not. Thanks a lot for watching the video, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.